Okay, so thank you all for coming. I'm Lisa Ramsey. I work here at the Osterville Village Library, and I have the great pleasure of introducing my mother to you today. My mom, Betsy, has been doing this sort of work for as long as I can remember.
50 years.
For 50 years.
Yes.
So pretty much my entire life.
Yes.
Used to do it on the kitchen table in Andover, where she's from, and she and my dad lived. Then started doing it, built a workshop on the back of the garage called Hardway and taught classes. Had a shop in downtown Andover for years and years and years called Betsy Williams The Proper Season. Has lectured and taught and written all over the world, and we're lucky enough to have her here today. So thank you for coming. And thank you to all the folks we have on Zoom for attending. Just a few housekeeping notes. You're all muted. Thank you very much. Please stay muted. And till the end, and then we'll have a chance to ask questions. What you see on the bottom row, we're going to be raffling off. And to those of you on Zoom, I put a ticket in for all of you. So if you do win, here's my friend Susan. If you do win, if you're on Zoom, you'll have to come pick it up at the library, but we're happy to have you do that. So without further ado, Betsy.
Oh, thanks, Lisa. It's nice to have a daughter on Cape, I must say. I really, really appreciate it and enjoy it. I have done plenty of programs for garden clubs down here, done round trips. But you know, you reach a point where it's oh, here I'm waving a knife around. I shouldn't be doing that. That's probably not a user-friendly way to behave. But anyway, you reach a point where you really don't want to do a round trip. So it's lovely to have somebody here that I can stay with, eat well, enjoy, and then do a program, and then wander on home after that. So it's good. You should have all three of you should have. All of you should have 3 handouts, and I'm sure Lisa will send them to the folks on Zoom. I think you can do that, right? Yep. Yeah. And the first one, this one is a list of suggestions should you get inspired to use fruits and vegetables in any kind of arranging. It doesn't have to be holiday arranging. This is my favorite place to shop for fruits and vegetables for flower arranging is Market Basket. So if you don't have, because they, at least on my side of Boston, that would be the North Shore, why their produce isn't always in great shape. And when you are selecting produce to use in any kind of flower arranging, you want to make sure that it's top-notch quality. You know, no dings, no dents, no little nicks, nothing. It needs to be perfectly fresh. And so this is. There are things that are on here that a couple of things I thought, well, if I ever revise this list, well, I'll probably take off because they can get a little dicey to use. But there are other things that I've noticed that Market Basket's carrying now that that would work perfectly. And one of those was green oranges, and bright green oranges. And we have a huge, I'm in Andover, and we're right next to Lawrence, which has the biggest Latino population in Massachusetts. And it makes me think, I don't know, I didn't ask a produce person, but there are all kinds of there's all kind of produce there that I don't recognize at this point. I'm not sure how to use. And when I spotted those green oranges, I almost threw my body on them. And I thought, whoa! But you can get little things like bags of key limes that are just this big that would be fun to use in something like this. Anyway, so this is a handy thing if you like to do arranging to keep in your file. This is One of the books that I've written years ago for Reader's Digest was on potpourri, and this is one of the recipes from there, and I'll be talking about that and demonstrating that. But this is in case you want to just either yourself or grab a friend by the hand, a partner by the hand, or preferably for me, as many kids as you can get your hands on, and head out into the woods collecting things, and come back and make this. It's a great afternoon, and it's really does, the fragrance that you're getting now is from that particular. And then this is just a little, the Garden Club Federation has had a magazine that's now online called The Mayflower. And for a number of years, I did a column for The Mayflower, wrote a column for The Mayflower. And this is one of the things that I had written about, just to raise awareness of and get us to ask questions about how come we're using, what are all these greens we use that we throw ourselves on and go out and cut and collect and pay, in some cases, extraordinary amounts of money for, particularly this year, to decorate our homes for Christmas. And what's up with that? How come? So this is a little bit of history. How come? So those are for you to take home and enjoy. And this whole program is based on how do you do it? What exactly do I have to do in order to get something like, make something like this? What do I have to do to build a table garden? How do I do it? And the reason I do a program like this is that years ago when I first started teaching, and I did have a retail wholesale business for 30 plus years and a whole lot of employees. And they were really good crew. So I could leave them and go off and teach and lecture and things like that, which I must say I love doing. I'm a Leo, in case you don't know. I like the performance part of it. But I was asked, would you do a flower arranging program? Because I'm a trained florist. I studied in Boston and I studied in England. And I said, no, I'm not doing a flower arranging program. I have no interest in doing a flower arranging program, because you just stand there and make small talk and put things into a container. And the flower arranging programs I have attended early on anyways, were all like, I didn't learn a thing. So my first questions when I started as a grower long ago with organic vegetables and then moved into flowers and herbs first and then flowers after that. And my first question when somebody knocked on the back door, presented me with a container and said, I want you to fill this container. And she was one of those people that maybe you've never had this experience, but I have. She was one of those people that always made me feel nervous, like I wasn't quite up to snuff. And when I opened the back door and saw her, I thought, uh-oh, why are you here? I don't want you here. And but I did have a small business, as Lisa said, out of the kitchen and a workroom off the kitchen. And she said, I want you to fill this container. And I said, I don't do flower arranging. My opinion of people that did flower arranging is pretty low. I said, I don't do flower arranging. And she said, I want you to fill this. And I said, no, I will sell you the plant material, because I was drying flowers. I will sell you the plant material, but I'm not going to do the arranging. Yes, you are. Well, it ended up that I did do it. I brought her in. I said, pick out what you want, because everything was hanging in the ceiling. And she picked out what she wanted. And then she said, now you're going to put it in there. And I said, no, I'm not. And she said, yes, you are. And I did. And she gave me an extraordinary amount of money. And I thought, there's something to this. So I think maybe I need to learn how to. So the first time I ever paid any attention was a demonstration at the North Shore Mall by North Shore Garden Clubs on how to do flower arranging. And when I was asked to do a flower arranging program, and after I said no, and when I managed to think it out clearly, because sometimes it takes you a while to get things moving, and like, well, now wait a minute, let's revisit this thought. I thought the way to do it is inside out. Most people are going to have pretty good ideas of what they want, but maybe not such a good idea of how to do it, of what the mechanics are. So this is all about the mechanics. And for this particular program today, it's all about mechanics that you should be able to find if you belong to a garden club and your garden club happens to have an account at any of the wholesalers in Boston. You can buy things, some of the supplies or most of the supplies there. If not, Michael's has been known to carry, and Lisa just told me that Michael's down here carries a large amount of floral supplies. So you probably, or any good garden center. And it's my understanding that there's an excellent garden center in Hyannis, and they may very well carry at this time of the year some floral supplies. If not, they may have them and be willing to sell them. Never hesitate to ask any place that does flowers professionally, do you have this? Could you buy me that? That kind of thing. Because at least 50% of the time you're going to find someone who will say, sure, I'd be happy to. So I'm going to start, and please, while I'm talking, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have things to share, please, please, please speak up, because, oh, that reminds me, I'm deaf. So if you speak up, shout at me. And I may very well, especially if Liz is out of the room, come close to you and lean forward and say, excuse me, do you mind repeating that? Just so I get it, not because of anything you've done or said, but because so that I understand what it is you need to know. Anything I know, I'm happy to share. There's no secrets here. So, but I'm going to start by talking about some of, in a flower arranging cupboard, it might be nice to have, particularly if you are going to be using fruits and vegetables. And if you love that Williamsburg look and you'd like to, pile up oranges or pile up apples and have some kind of a citrus pyramid and lay out greens on the table. If you like that kind of a look, you need to know how to get those oranges stacked on each other so that they absolutely do not roll off. And that was, seriously, and that was one of my first challenges, was I've got to figure out how to stack oranges, and I couldn't do it. I mean, I absolutely failed until one friend, I was sort of ranting about it one day, and her friend leaned over and said to me, have you tried Tangelos? They're flat on the top and bottom. And they are. I don't know if Tangelos still exist, but they were large and round and flat like this, and you could stack them and just kind of knock the table and they wouldn't go rolling all over the floor. A better way to do it is to pick them. And these are skewers that come from Market Basket. You find them hanging over the hot dogs and the canned hams. Okay, the Market Basket. I don't know where they are in other stores, but they're very inexpensive. This was formerly 4 inches, now 3 3/4 inches. Formerly 10 inches, now 9 3/4. Formerly 12, now 11 3/4. However, they're made out of wood. They do have some bamboo ones. I do not recommend them because they just aren't strong enough. But they are made out of wood. They come 100 to a package, and they're very inexpensive. I think they're $2.50, $2.29, and $1.99 or something like that. And this is a good thing to have on hand if you are going to be using fruits and vegetables. You can break them, you can cut them to any size you want, and I will be showing you in a minute, how to use some of them, but they're very handy to have. The other thing you should have in your flower arranging cupboard is a couple of blocks of Oasis, of floral foam. Now, once upon a time, floral foam had a formaldehyde base, and that formaldehyde base was definitely toxic, had serious toxic issues with it. Not only did it kill a lot of flowers and plant material, not all plant material was tough enough to stand up to use in floral foam, but long-term use could damage humans too. So, and to top it all off, there was no way you could recycle a block of floral foam. If you have a landfill nearby and you ever feel like excavating, you can take your shovel and dig down a few feet and probably find a block of floral foam that you could rinse off, pour hot water over, and use again and again and again. So this issue was addressed by the Oasis Smithers Company, and I don't work for them, but this is the best stuff to use. By the Oasis Smithers Company about, 5 or 6 years ago. They came out with a sustainable floral foam. So this has a minimal amount of formaldehyde in it, which means, and a very small amount, which means that when spring comes, and or even now, bulb flowers, if you happen to be a person that loves to use tulips, something as particularly tulips that people love to use it at Christmas time, a lot of people do, and you're not doing a water-based arrangement, you are going to do it in a container that requires floral foam. You can actually put tulips, daffodils, things like that in floral foam now, and they will survive. They will not curl up and die, which is a good thing to know. This floral foam is sold by the block. It's sold by the case, 48 blocks to a case, but it's also sold by the block at craft stores, so you can buy it. But should you decide to purchase some, make sure that it's stamped right here, Maxi Life, because this is the sustainable variety of floral foam. This, in a landfill, this takes 2 years to disintegrate. And so that's a huge improvement. And you will find that Maxi Life comes 2 different ways. One with holes drilled in the base, in the bottom, like this, and the other just plain, no holes at all. And when I went to floral school for the first time back in 1974, this had just been introduced, and it was high excitement. Oh my God, look at this. These holes mean that the Oasis is going to absorb water ever so much faster. Well, it does by about 15 minutes. I mean, it doesn't matter. So if somebody's trying to charge you more for holes than they do for non-hole, just go for the least expensive one, because the way that you hydrate floral foam, and there is a trick to it, is to fill a kitchen sink with the hottest water possible. Take your blocks of floral foam, float them in the sink, and walk away. Turn your back, resist all urges to push that foam down, like, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. Get yourself out of the house if you have a strong urge to do that. Or, go do something that will absorb your attention for the next couple of hours, because you want that to, I do this at night, so I don't walk by and go, like that. And I let it sit in the sink all night long, so that when I come out in the morning, I know that that block is fully saturated. And when you think about the chemistry or the physics of this block absorbing water, you can spray water, just take a spray like this or just run it under, and the color will change. You go, oh, look, it's all wet. It's not. It's not all wet. The part that you want to be fully saturated in order to sustain any cut plant material that you put in here is the center of this block. And when you soak Oasis like this, the water wakes up from the bottom, it begins to sink, and it gets wet all over it, but it takes quite a while for that water to work itself to the heart of the block. And if you've ever done any kind of flower arranging with floral foam and you've cut into it, and there's a little light green line going down the center, that's because the block hasn't been fully saturated. And something else that you might be interested in knowing is that once you've done an arrangement with floral foam, using floral foam, you want to rehydrate that arrangement right away, because usually within 24 hours, almost all the moisture in the block has been absorbed by that cut plant material. So rehydrate, in other words, pour water into your container. And just after you finish that arrangement, and your arrangement will last you for days and days. A colleague and I did flowers for restaurants in Boston for years and years, and that was always the last thing we did. We did big arrangements, and we would always refill the container at the very end, because we knew it had to last a week until we could come back with fresh flowers and do it all over again. So, but any questions? And I might take that water.
I was just gonna say, I'll go wait.
But anybody have any questions about any of this? Okay, well, let's start with right down here. No, let's talk about greens for starters. All right, there are two greens. Well, there's one. It's the star of the show, as far as I'm concerned, every Christmas, and that's boxwood. All right. This is the longest lasting Christmas green there is. If you do an arrangement that has a boxwood base to it, everybody see up there? Okay, yeah. If you, that water's coming. If you do an arrangement that is primarily made of boxwood, and then, oh, thanks, and then you add greens on top of that. That original arrangement that you did with just boxwood, if you keep it wet, it will last you right straight through to Mother's Day. You can take out any greens that you've added to it to enrich it, and simply add flowers, but you just, boxwood, if you keep it wet, will last for 6 or 8 months without dying, but you have to keep it wet. Once it begins to dry out, that's it. It will never again reabsorb moisture, ever, no matter what you do. You can pray, you can pound the stems, you can, but box and moisture really go very well together. When you go to a garden center, and if you buy bunches of boxwood, this came in a case of box straight from Virginia. Virginia boxwood is the best. You'll see signs that say German boxwood. Forget all of that. You want good Virginia boxwood if you are purchasing it from a garden center, unless it's locally grown. And you certainly can grow your own down here. no
I
problem.
was gonna say, there's a lot of boxwood down
Yeah, oh, I'm sure there is,
there.
yeah.
But some people have their own boxwood bushes.
Oh, yeah, I do, but
Yeah.
that's unusual on the North Shore.
Right, but down here, people could just cut their
Oh,
stuff in
yeah,
their yard.
definitely.
Right?
So, but if you're purchasing it, then take a good hard look at what you're buying before you buy it. If you pick up a bundle and usually they come in 1 pound bundles. If you pick up a 1 pound bundle of boxwood and it has little yellow leaves on the bottom, or it looks at all slimy on the bottom, or the stem looks weazened, forget it. Don't put that back. Look for a box that has a nice shiny leaf that looks really perky. It could be flattened because these come in 20-pound cases, and it could be sort of flattened and not fluffy looking. The first thing when you go home, if you're purchasing boxwood, the first thing you want to do is release it from its bunch and get a big container of water. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold. My preference is that it be outdoors, because you do not ever want to get a boxwood leaf or leaves down your drain, because they do not deteriorate. And I caused a huge plumbing problem years and years ago that has never been forgotten. I mean, we lost the whole ceiling thanks to me. I had no idea that boxwood leaves take 2 years to deteriorate. However, if you have cut boxwood and you are a gardener, when this deteriorates, oh, great, come in, nice to see you. There's handouts right over here. If you are a gardener and you have any plants that want a high nitrogen, that require a high nitrogen level, as box breaks down, it takes 2 years to do it. It's an excellent source of nitrogen. It's a very high nitrogen plant as it begins to break down. Anyway, but your best bet is to soak your boxwood when you get home if you purchase it. Just throw it in water. It can be icy cold. It can freeze over should it freeze. It likes to be well hydrated. When you take it out of the water, you want to give it a minimum of 24 hours. When you take it out of the water, it'll just be, it stretches out, the leaves look shiny, everything's smiling. I mean, it really is. It's so, and then when you go, you want to look for really nice clusters on the ends of your box. Be fussy. If you purchase this, it's going to be expensive. I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, I spent years past, I've spent $45 to $50 a case. This year it's $70 a case. So, and that's the wholesale price, not the retail price. I haven't checked any retail prices, but look carefully, buy the best that you possibly can, keep it hydrated, and it will reward you. Just go on. If by any chance it starts to dry out and you happen to notice the dried flowers are coming back into fashion, which they certainly seem to be, Longwood Gardens, just in their latest posting, just did an entire article on one of the DuPont mansions down there has been completely decorated with dried flowers for Christmas, which, as an old dried flower expert, really cracked me up. I thought, oh, this is really neat. But when box dries out, the leaf weasels. It gets a little shrunken, but it does not fall apart. And so if you have an arrangement that you've done and it's like, oh, darn it, it's dry, you can still add dried flowers to it. You could use it as a base for a dried flower. We used to do boxwood trees, and if they dried out after Christmas, we would simply take out all the Christmas parts of the boxwood tree, leave the boxwood tree, add dried flowers, and sell them for Valentine's Day and Easter, and they just kept going and going. It's a very giving investment. a very good. The other green that you can use and that a lot of people just walk right by, pay no attention to, but is yew. Yew is another really seriously long-lasting green. And should yew dry out in your home, in the heat of your home, it will never drop its needles. I mean, you can use it to, if you've got, say, a lovely armoire and you want to put greens on the top, you can cut boughs of yew and put them up there and just have, and then add pine cones and lovely baubles and things like that, and let it just dry in place. And it's not going to start dripping needles on you and getting all over the floor. So this is another excellent thing. So white pine is another. This is the ubiquitous white pine, which grows everywhere because this is its native habitat. Thank you very much. And one of the reasons we were settled by those early Brits was for white pine. So everywhere you go in Massachusetts, you will find white pine springing up by the side of the road, coming up through sidewalk cracks, wherever. Just seeding itself in your backyard, like, oh, I gotta get rid of that white pine. But at Christmas, this is a lovely thing to use. And one of the ways to use white pine, because it tends to be very floppy, but if you strip the stem down, cut it down, get that stem nice and naked so it will go into, and then you give it a little bit of a haircut like that, you've got something a bit more well behaved. You can keep trimming it down as much as you might like it to be until it just fits exactly what it is you'd like it to do. And it's much better behaved after it gets a nice haircut. So and it smells heavenly, and that's going right into the potpourri over there. So, all right. Let's start with this, because this is about the simplest thing you could possibly make, and it shouldn't take more than 30 minutes once you have your materials. This is a 12-inch grapevine wreath. If you don't have one hanging out somewhere in your house, I'm sure that they are very, very easy to find. And they are reasonably inexpensive. Each one is different. Remember, every single time you buy a wreath, it's a little bit different because wreaths are not mass produced. They may be produced in bulk, but they are all hand-made. I mean, they have to be. Even if you have a wreath machine, which lots of companies have, and it's pedal produced or even electric, you still have hand winding. So every single wreath is going to look differently. Every single wreath is going to have a slightly different bulk to it, visual bulk, and also a slightly different shape. And you begin for something like this by I used boxwood, I used yew, and I used some holly. And that's the other, by the way. I hope you guys know how lucky you are. I just hope you know that how lucky you are to be able to grow holly beautifully in your backyards, because it's one thing. One of my regrets is never having planted holly. But a friend had holly, and so she gifted me with a few sprigs, so I was able to use it. But holly, fresh cut holly that's been cut fresh, will last a good month in water. I mean, it will last a long, long time outdoors. If you buy bunches of cut holly and they don't say this comes from this local spot, don't do it, because most bunches of cut holly that I'm familiar with come from Oregon. And by the time they get here, they're dried out and they will not last more than a week before they start falling apart, even if you cut them and put them in water. But fresh holly lasts a long, long time. This wreath is made simply by wedging. There are no other mechanics here except wedging. And I'm going to change glasses to do this. And all you have to do is take nice sprigs of boxwood and begin to, one of the nice things about box is that you don't have to cut it. You can snap it. It snaps very, very easily. And you just wedge some boxwood. That's it. That's all. You wedge here, you wedge some more on the other side. It's simply a wedging trick. And the way the wreath, so that if you're purchasing a grapevine wreath, purchase a dense one that has a lot of density to it. If it's too loose, this isn't going to work. But you just snap and wedge, and before you know it, you've got a nice wreath going. Now you can, if you want to, go all the way around the wreath and make a full boxwood wreath. And that way, if you do that, then you do this. You wedge in back of, oops, come on, behave. There. You always wedge in back of so that all of your sprigs of box are going in the same direction. Then you layer up. All the arranging that my business did over the years, we use a layering method. All of one kind of plant material, then you add the second kind of plant material, the third kind of plant material. By the time you're done, you have something that looks incredibly rich and complex. And it's like, how did that happen? Well, it's just layer after layer after layer after layer of plant material, but all of one kind. So you can go this way, or you can choose to do what I did. And I just want to tell you that if any of you subscribe to White Flower Farm, and I do because I have a good friend that works there, but you can buy one of these from White Flower Farm for $59 plus shipping if you'd like to. But you can spend 30 minutes at home once you have your material and make your own quite nicely. So that first it was the boxwood, then after I had the box in, I put some yew in, and then I added a few bits of the holly that I had been given, and ended up putting a bow on it. And the bow is attached with this. These are floral picks. They come in all different lengths. I usually just have, this is a 6-inch length, because I can break it and have any of the shorter lengths that I might need, or the longer length. But I start with a long one, and then if I cut it down, so that when I made this bow, I just did I did what's called a lazy 8 or a florist bow, where you lay your ribbon. You start out with the tail. I should have brought ribbon with me. I didn't think about that, sorry. And then you just do lazy eights, one on top. Think ribbon candy, one on top of the other, on top of the other, till you get 3 loops on either side, pinching all the time in the middle. That's the only mechanic you need. You just pinch with your thumb and forefinger and just layer, loop on one side, loop on the other side, ribbon candy or eights line on their side, and then this goes around. You just twist it down, and you've got your bow. And if it happens to be a wired ribbon, you fluff it up, and you're good to go. No problem whatsoever. So, any questions? Yes. Remember to shout.
Once
Well,
it's,
I've got Lisa to interpret too.
once it's done, do you
Yeah.
have to mist that?
I don't, because this is also fresh. And if you put it outdoors, you don't need to mist it at all. No, because you've got the moisture outdoors. So that's fine. This is going into the library, and that probably is a good idea to just mist it every morning. Yeah, thank you for that point, because to keep it from drying out. But there's only 2 weeks to Christmas now, so that's so I will put this over here like that. All right, now let's talk about this little guy, because this is something that is fun and quick to do, believe it or not, and doesn't take a lot of plant material. What it does take is some kind of a small plastic saucer. Well, it doesn't have to be plastic. It could be china. If you have a small china bowl like this at home, some kind of pottery, but something small, just because you could, I mean, say 3 of these down a table for a festive meal could be so pretty, and they're quick to make and easy to do. And you have already soaked your, can you put that back over there? Oh, thanks. You've already soaked your oasis. So you have wet oasis handy. Now you have to use your imagination. This is a wet block of oasis now, all right? And you simply take a slice, probably about 1/6 of a block. This is a 6-inch saucer, and you put your wet oasis in there. And then this is something else that really does belong into a flower arranging cabinet at home. And this is a fabric tape available from Smithers Oasis. You can get all these things online too, but then you have to pay shipping. And a fabric tape that has been designed to use with wet oasis. It will not stick to a wet surface, but it will stick and stay nice and stuck if you use it. All right, hello. If you use it over wet oasis. And this is what I want to show you, because this is a candle pick, very available at both Jacobson's and Carbone in Boston. And oh, Carbone is also down in, this is the wholesale floral supply place, is also down in Rhode Island, in Cranston. I think it's Cranston, Rhode Island. But these floral picks are handy dandy, and because they hold, I mean, candle picks are handy dandy, and you push your candle pick right down into the center of that block of wet oasis, and then you run your tape over the sides of the candle pick, holding it firmly in place. like that. And on the other side also, like this, you bring the edge, the end of the tape over the edge of the container. And smooth it down. And then you go the other way also. You go this way. This is kind of like, did you ever see a lassie go this way and that way? Because you want to secure this candle pick right in the center. You do not want a candle tumbling out onto your table. All right. Okay, so you've got this just like that, but the next thing you want to do is take this tape and run it right around the outside edge, just on the edge, catching the ends of the tape that form the cross pieces, so that when you pick your container up with the wet oasis in it, you can go like this and nothing is going to happen. Nothing will fall out. And you know that you're totally secure. You put your candle in place and like this and begin to work. Now, for that container, I began with lots of white pine because I love that fuzzy look. And I begin right here, right around the edge, right around the base of the candle. One of my goal here is to, and you notice that I'm cleaning the stems, always naked stems. Never try to put a leafy stem into floral. Always naked stems. But my goal is to completely cover the ugly oasis and the plastic candle pick. So first I lightly filled, shaping as I went, with white pine. And then after that, I used a little bit of boxwood and some cedar. And this, where I live, I can go into the woods and cut cedar. You may not be able to do that, but this is an inexpensive green that you can buy it, and you should be able to buy it any garden center. And it truly should be inexpensive at any garden center. And it lasts for, as long as it's kept cold, it lasts for weeks and weeks and weeks. So that you can buy it in November and throw it in your garage if it's not heated, and go back the middle of December and say, oh, now I'm going to use you. And it'll be just fine. And plus it's beautiful. To me, it looks like feathers or a fan. I love it. So I just snip. There's something called, do you see how pretty that is? There's something called Zen in the art of flower arranging. And you tuck that right in there. And so first all the white pine all the way down around the edge, then some cedar, Then I just added accents of boxwood. Like this. Too high. One of the nice things about box, I'll go back to the Zen and the art of flowering in a minute, but one of the nice things about boxwood is, and the reason that boxwood is the topiary plant, going back to the most ancient of times, the early times of the Roman Empire. The reason, those of you who've traveled to the UK, and there's boxwood all over the place, especially in the southern part of England and in Ireland, the Romans brought that boxwood with them. This is native to the southern Mediterranean. And they brought that boxwood with them, and it's been growing happily there ever since. And the Romans did incredible topiary work with boxwood. But you can do it because the leaves are absolute opposite pairs. And you can snip from the top and shape your piece of boxwood like that. And you don't have, and so that was, but there's this Zen in the art of flower arranging. There's a book, and I talk about this a lot because I get the biggest kick out of it. There's a book called Zen in the Art of Flower Arranging. It's a little paperback book. It was first published in 1935 by a Japanese professor, a woman who accompanied her Japanese professor husband, German professor, by a German professor, who accompanied her German professor husband to Tokyo, where he had just received an appointment at the University of Tokyo. This is 1934. And she was a full professor in Germany at that point. And she got there and realized that as a woman, she would not be allowed to teach. As a matter of fact, it would be best if she stayed home. And so she turned her attention, she must have been a very good sport, turned her attention to Japanese flower arranging, and ended up writing this book, which has become a classic, called Zen and the Art of Flower Arranging. And if you ever get your hands on it, it doesn't mean you're going to end up being a, magnificent Japanese flower arranger, but it just has this. She's the one who taught me, just by reading the book, that before you pull a piece of plant material apart, before you cut, take a half a second and just look at it. Just a half a second and look and see, okay, what here is going to be useful to me? What shapes am I seeing? It doesn't slow you down. And once you've trained your eye to do that, things move really fast, because I can now go through a piece of boxwood like there's no tomorrow, and see things. But it really is a neat approach to using plant material to its best, the maximum amount of plant material we have. Okay, anybody here know anything about St. Lucy's Day? About the patron saint of Sweden and her feast day, which is next Monday, and the fact that Lucia, that is the beginning of the Christmas season in the Scandinavian countries, is St. Lucy's Day. And this, in our workshop and in our business years ago, this is an apple candle that we always made for St. Lucy's Day. And you can make it for Thanksgiving, you can make it for Christmas. If you celebrate St. Lucy's Day, you can do that. St. Lucy appears with a crown of 4 candles on her head, yeah, and delivers her parents breakfast and bed. Lisa did that once. Mom, I think she was 12. but anyway, the trick, if you have read online, if you have read in how-to books, make an apple candle, pour it out fill it with spices, wrap your candle in plastic and stuff it in there. Don't do that. First of all, the second you break the skin on any fruit, you have created a spot where bacteria can enter. And bacteria's job, just the way it is on our bodies, notice the Band-Aid, is to break down that flesh. So because it gets in. So in order to prevent that from happening, in order to keep your apple, which by the way, when you buy it, you make sure that it's firm. This is a Honeycrisp. You make sure that it's firm, that it stands up straight, and that could be embarrassing at your supermarket, but you just do it anyway. You take a bunch of apples and you find a flat spot and you stand them up, and you keep your elbows out if it's the middle of the day because people might be bumping into you. Best to go at 8:30 or 9 o'clock in the morning, when the produce people are happy and cheery and there aren't many people in seriously. But again, it's this little candle pick that stands you in good stead, because if you get an apple that stands upright, remember it's going to have a candle in it, and that apple is perfect in every way, it will last you a good 10 days before it begins to break down. And it will begin to break down right around the top of the apple where you have pushed the pick in, and then also pierced the skin with boxwood. I have tried over the years many different kinds of woody stem things in apples, and it's the box that really works well. Recently, somebody suggested using holly, and my guess is that holly would work very well, because holly has good stiff stems, but you need a nice stiff stem in order to do this. And for me, in my world, box is the way. Now, just to demonstrate, this, I see right down in here, a cluster of boxwood that's going to fill up quite a bit of space here. I want that cluster, but I'm going to have to create it by doing this and doing that. Oh, and I guess I'll do that. And then I'm going to pull off a little bit more there, make a slightly shorter stem. And to me, that's perfection for what I want it to do. And what I want it to do is to cover up this candle pick and to look really pretty. And this is another one. And I'm going to do this, this, and again, that. And you just go all the way around until you have completely covered your candle pick. Yes.
Are you suggesting that all those pieces should be uniformly tall, like the same length as you're going along?
Yes, I am definitely suggesting. Well, first, two things. One, you don't want the box too high because you do have a candle here. That's number one. The other is, I'm a rather tailored kind of person, so I like things to look a little sculpted, look a little. That's just my eye. Your eye needs to tell you if you like it a little wilder looking, and lots of people do, but just for safety's sake, keep it low. You can have it out, but yeah. Does that answer the question?
Yes, and the one in front of you with, so there's a fat candle with a wreath-like.
This, yeah, that's
Yes.
that I'm not talking.
Are most of those the same length? As you're going along, are they mostly around the same length?
Yeah,
As
just
you put them
about,
in?
yeah.
That's what gives you that uniform shape?
This, well, let me finish this,
Okay.
and then I'll get to that one down here. And I'm not,
I'm hand me that one. I can
I'm
hand-
sorry, what?
Hand me the one that you've done. I can bring it over so you can look at it.
Oh. Anyway, I will finish this later because whoever gets the apple candle gets 2 of them, or I'll give you a kit. That might be the best thing because I'm not sure, I don't see a cloth, but I want to make sure we get through everything here. And so are there any questions? Any of you guys have more questions? Let me talk about this for a few minutes. This is simple, inexpensive, and can be quite stunning. This is a short candle. You could use taller candles. You could use 2 or 3 candles in here if you had the right. This is your mechanic right here. It's called a box wire frame, and it should be very available at any garden center. Should have these frames, particularly at this time of the year, most especially at this time of the year. And the trick to this, to keeping it healthy and happy, is, and I'm not sure I want to really lift it out completely, but yeah, there we are, is this is an 8-inch box wire frame and a 9-inch plastic saucer, all right? And the box wire frame goes into the plastic saucer with a candle in the middle, and whoever, oh, this is staying at the library?
No, that's for raffling.
Oh, this, okay, whoever takes this home needs to, in order to keep this fresh, you need to keep a little bit of water in the saucer to make sure that your oasis stays fresh. Now, how do you get the oasis in there? Once again, use your imagination. This is good exercise to use your imagination, all right? I'm removing this, putting it in the trash, and pretend that this is wet oasis. And I cut blocks of wet oasis here. Another 1/6 of a block of oasis. Remember, this oasis is dripping wet now, okay? Another 1/6 of a block of oasis. I cut it down the middle like that, and then into 4 pieces like that. And this wet oasis, I then placed. Can you guys see okay? Everybody see all right? I then place this wet oasis this way, fitting it onto the box wire frame. And the only thing that slowed me down on this was taping each piece into the frame. This piece is a little big, so I will, because I want them to be as uniform as possible. So this is 7 pieces, just like that, if you can see it. And then what I did was I took this tape, and this was the fussy part right here. I took this tape and I taped each and every one. I'm going to take all these out now. Each and every one in place this way. And I brought the tape back around on itself and pulled it as tight as I could. There's still a little bit of wiggle there, but this is taped in place hard, strongly enough, firmly enough, so that if I went ahead and taped all of these guys in, you know, I'd be able to turn everything upside down and give it a shape. That's always a good test. Is this going to fall out or not? And then I just started in once again with the boxwood. But I put this into its saucer, put the box wire frame into the saucer and worked while the box wire frame was in the saucer, because one of my goals is to hide my mechanics. And one of my mechanics is that black plastic saucer. So I wanted to make sure that I had boxwood coming down over the edge of the saucer, so that when I sat down at a table or my guests or family sat down at the table, they weren't looking at black plastic, that they were looking at plant material. And so I just began that way and worked all the way around. I had WCRB on the whole time, and which definitely helps when you're working. And
that would be WCAI to you guys.
oh, and then once all of that was in place, the only other grain that I added was white pine, which you can see here, but very, very trimmed down. So just a little soft burst of white pine. Once I had the white pine in, then I just took these baubles. They come in clusters, and you should be able to purchase them pretty readily if you don't have them in your supplies stored away somewhere. I used 5 clusters of baubles, and then I started in. So I had kumquats, I had key limes, I tried kumquats, I tried key limes, and I didn't like them. I was like, no, this is not working. So I did something very old-fashioned. I took walnuts. Walnuts are the one nut that you can use comfortably in flower arranging without any muss, fuss, or drilling, because every single walnut has a stem end, and 90% of the time, and I'll tell you why it's 90% now, 90% of the time, there's enough of a space, a little tiny space, that you can take a 3 3/4 inch pick or a broken, a cut down 10-inch pick, and push it in there. And that gives you. And then I decided that I was going to add a little glitz. And this is a spray glitter. You don't have to do this, but every once in a while. And so it just adds a tiny touch of glitz that kind of echoes a little bit the shine on the baubles. And you just pick your walnuts and then spray them all over. Make sure that if you do that. This is a line of sprays that are designed for flower arranging. It's called Design Master. And I'm quite sure that Michaels carries this whole line. We used this for years in the workshop at Christmas time, natural plant material, to just give it a tiny, because if you use candlelight, the candlelight really picks up this glitter, and it just sort of, makes it a little magic. You can get something called a silver one, and you can get something called snowflake. And in my experience, those were never particularly successful. It's the gold glitter, based in my experience. Those nuts go right in there. Now, 10% of the time, why can't you get a pick in? This year, I bought fresh, these nuts actually I saved from last year. I put it in a nice big plastic container with a screw top lid, and they were in my workshop all year long. So these are last year's nuts. This year's walnuts, when I bought bags of them to use in classes, I discovered that the walnuts come from California. You have to know what's going on in California: drought and fire. And for the first time ever, I was unable to get picks in some of those nuts because they're just so weazened up by lack of water. That, at least that's my guess. Now, one little thing here. How are we doing time-wise?
It's 11:15.
11:15. Okay,
So you have 15 minutes.
I've got 15 minutes. Oh, that's going to be fun. You can. There is a floral adhesive, and this is another Smithers Oasis product that is designed to glue plant material to plant material. And if I had wanted to, and I experimented with this and decided against it, I could have put a little bit of floral adhesive there and used these pine cones in here, which would have added an interesting touch. And I did glitter the pine cones if you want to take a look at it. Okay, well, let's put this down here because.
What's the candle sitting on?
Say that?
The candle, what is it sitting on?
It's sitting on the bottom of the plastic container. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. There's no
Oh, okay.
no mechanic to
Got it.
to that. It's just.
Can you light the candle?
Can you light it? Oh yeah. I
You're not
would.
afraid
This is
to-
a low candle. You know, a little bit taller, but
Yeah.
oh, absolutely, you light the candle. It's not. It's going to sit in a little bit of water, but that water isn't going to wick up into the can.
No, but the greens won't catch fire.
No. No. If they're wet, they won't.
Ah.
If they're fresh and wet, they will not catch fire.
Okay.
If they're dry and old, they will.
Don't light it in January.
What?
Don't light it in January.
No. All right, this is a table garden, and I think this is probably the most important thing to talk about. You've got instructions for the potpourri. This is what it looks like right here. All right, and but this is a table garden. So let's spend a little time on how do you do this, because this year plants seem to be in short supply, but you still can find some things, and it's fun to make a table garden, and it will last you, if you keep it well watered, it'll last you at least a month, if not longer. And should something begin to show signs of decline, you can unpot it and just use the plants individually. What I used in this table garden is a cyclamen, and I don't know if any of you have had problems growing cyclamen indoors, but cyclamen, if you have, please remember that cyclamen wants two things. It likes to be watered from the bottom if possible, but it also likes it cold. Cold. They will take down to 30 degrees very happily. So the cooler you can keep your cyclamen, if you love them, the happier they're going to be, and they're just gonna. You don't have to put them in the window to get lots of sunlight. You just they need natural light and cool temperatures, and if possible, watering from the bottom. And if you can't water from the bottom, water from the side, not down through the center. Cyclamen come in corms. So the corms are sitting on top of the soil, partially sitting on top of the soil. This plant right here is called Selaginella. And this is a club moss, which is a very small plant family. This has been renamed frosted fern for sales purposes, but it is a Selaginella, and it's a club moss, and it will last you for a while, but please, if it dies, don't let it break your heart, because it's
can I just add something? I've seen, because I make a table garden every year. Right now, or at least a few days ago, Trader Joe's had these club mosses for sale, which was, I couldn't find them at Mahoney's. And Mahoney's had some really nice cyclamen. So
Yes,
if you're
really
looking
unusual.
for
It was, Lisa has
local
a
sourcing.
cyclamen with a flower I've never seen before. A configuration.
And I have not been to Hyannis Country Gardens, but I'm sure they have a great selection as well. I
Yeah,
don't
I'll
want to
bet
give
they
a
do,
plug
too.
to anyone. I'm not. But I was, because I had looked for the club fern for mine and I couldn't find it. And after of course I made it, I went to Trader Joe's and I'm like, oh, there they are.
Yeah. Yeah, and then this one's going home. So, so you can make another one. Anyway, you need to begin with a container that is completely waterproof. And if you have any doubts about your container holding moisture and not leaking, then fill it with hot water, fold up a kitchen towel, put that on your kitchen counter, put the container with the hot water on top of your kitchen towel and leave it for 36 to 48 hours. If the towel stays dry, you're good to go, all right? If the towel gets wet, then you've got a leak and you need to find a plastic liner of some kind or another. So this is a deep container. I could have used a container if I'd had it. There was a little bit, lower, but because this is a deep container, I need to put soil in here. And you will notice that the 3 pots that I have here, the 3 plants that I have, I may not even have brought enough soil, but the 3 plants that I have different size pots, all right? But when you are planting a table garden, you want to make sure that all of your plants are growing in that table garden at exactly the same height. You can't vary one. You have to make. So you need to have potting soil on hand so that you can build up bases if you need to build up little mounds. Now, this is it's called commercially a green cypress. It actually is a Camasiferous. This will grow into quite a good sized tree. And down here, if you can keep it alive during the winter, it will, and you plant it outdoors somewhere, it will definitely turn into quite a beautiful evergreen tree for you that has a nice fragrance to it. Or there's a whole Camasiferous family. So you can, and that's CHAM, and it goes on after that. I'm a terrible speller, but look it up online because you'd be amazed at the so the first thing I'm going to do with this Camasiferous is to check to make sure that if I put it in, and I always put the tallest one in first, that it's exactly level with the rim of the container, which it is right now. But here, stick that over there. But what I want to do is I would like this Camasiferous to feel that it can grow. And in order to do that, because it's so root bound, this root ball is so tight and pulled together, I want to be able to give this Camasiferous the message that it needs to put its roots out into the base of this container and not continue to grow in a circle. So I am breaking up this root ball gently. I'm massaging the roots, and then, okay, where's my scissors? Somewhere. Oh, thanks, Liz. Good thing she's around. I am going to trim this off like this, trim off these extra roots. And if you're worried, just say it's okay. We're doing surgery. You will recover, I promise. And now I've got that in place. The next thing that's going to go in here is the cyclamen. And the cyclamen has a very different kind of root ball. It's larger, so I'm going to fit it first. And it's just at the rim level, so that's good. But I'm going to, again, just very gently pull this apart. Just massage it a little bit. And no, everybody is standing up straight here. We are not, and I want to make sure that the cyclamen is standing at its very best face forward here. And then I'm going to take the selaginella and there's a little soil in there. And again, just a little bit of breaking up of that root ball, just a little. And I'm going to tuck it right down in there. And then the next thing I'm going to do, probably whack it. And again, I'm using my fingers to tell me, no, a little bit. All right, well, they're all at the same level. But my fingers tell me they're great gaps. They're big holes because you've got 3 round balls putting together. And that means that there are definitely holes and there are gaps. And the trick then is to take your soil and fill in, making sure that the soil does not cover the top of the root ball, that it stays just perfectly level. And you just fill in with extra soil. Now, if I could have found a 4th plant, I would have put it in. But even on the wholesale basis where I was, my vendor just did not have the plants that I wanted.
Where would you put it? Where would you put a 4th plant?
Where I see, that's one of the things that I like to do, is to show you. I would probably, depending on the plant, I'd probably put it right in here. One of the things I might have, that I was looking for was ivy. There was no ivy, no ivy at all. I was also looking for a lemon cypress, which really is a cypress. It's not a cactus. I was looking for a lemon cypress, all gone, not there. There, I could have purchased a calancho, but one of the things that you want to do when you are making a table garden is to make sure that the cultural requirements of the plants are very similar to each other. And a calancho is a succulent. It doesn't want a lot of moisture. These guys will take a lot more moisture, and you can water these regularly, and they seriously will happily go on for, it could be several weeks. This Chemosiferous tends to dry out, so we have forced hot air, so especially there. But once I had everything in place and filled in all of the cracks and the holes, and you just let those fingers keep walking, because you don't want any spaces. You want to make sure you have a completely level top. Then you add your little decorative pieces and just poke them down in there, and you're fine.
Betsy, why wouldn't you leave those in the actual pots so that when you're done with that, you can just take the pot out? And
That is a possibility. And we were just talking about that last night with Amaryllis that I brought Lisa. You could. I mean, you could, but it doesn't, it's not the best thing for your plants. I'm on the side
Can
of the
I
plants.
give you another answer to that, or and build on that? I take my table garden every year, and I do this for the holidays, and then pieces of it start to die. So I pull those out, and then I plant little bulbs in there in the dirt. So like I already have a bed, and then all of a sudden I'll have like mini daffodils, or I'll have a hyacinth that comes up. And I keep changing, swapping my plants out, or if, depending on, at Valentine's Day, if they're little plants that come out in the grocery store, or in the garden centers, I'll swap in. I think it's St. Patrick's Day one year, I put in a bunch of shamrocks, and I'll kind of keep mine going, honestly, till spring.
Hers is that.
I have a bigger container, but like, this size, like this would probably, correct me if I'm wrong, be the first one that's gonna die.
It will.
I would pull that out, and then I'd pop in something else there.
So how long is are your base plants gonna last?
Depends on the plant. I have one of these, like
You've got a lemon,
a lemon one,
which is
that I
really
took it out of the pot when I finally broke the pot down, and I planted it in a regular pot. It's this big right now, and I've had it for what, 3 years?
or four.
3 or 4
And
years. So
that is remarkable. I got a call one day from somebody down here who said that they had taken a class and we'd done a table garden. And she said, my lemon cypress is now 6 feet tall. Can I plant it outdoors? And I said, I don't think on the Cape you could do that, but you could give it wheels and bring it in and out because yes, you can. And if this was a larger container, and she's absolutely right, that you really, but her container is this big and has multiple plants in it.
So you need to choose plants that need, the same type of water and the same type of light.
So I'm sorry.
but you need to choose plants that have the same type of water and the same, or need the same type of water and the same type of light.
Same culture requirements.
But this, for the holidays, this would easily get you through. If you went home and made them now, this would get you through New Year's, like no problem.
Probably get you to Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
But then you see, then you can, if the Selaginella probably won't make it, and should you choose that. The cyclamen, I have a cyclamen that's a couple of years old now, because the thing about cyclamen is that if you keep it going, and it'll start to die back, and then it'll start to flower again. When you purchase a cyclamen, when you purchase a cyclamen, and I know we have to stop because Lisa's got another program, but you need to look down in the center of the cyclamen. Pull it apart, look down in the center, look for all of those buds. You want a cyclamen that has a lot of buds buried down in the center. The other thing about cyclamen is that if there are dead flowers on the cyclamen, or they've already started to form seed pods, the first thing, but there's still a lot of buds, the first thing you want to do is take your thumb and forefinger, run it down the stem to the base of the stem, and snip off that dying flower or that seed pod. And because you don't want the cyclamen. But then come summer, if you repot your cyclamen, come summer and you have a shady area where it stays moist, and I was going to say cool, but it gets hotter than all get out outside our back door. I throw mine under bushes outside the back door, and they just stay there all summer long, and they're perfectly happy, and I bring them back in the
But you
fall.
plant them?
No, I just keep them in their pots.